Hey, welcome, and thanks for coming back for Chapter 2. What I'm going to do is go through each of the tutorials that are on the homework sheet and just point out the new, anything new, or some things we might have to review. So I'm not going to go through every painstaking detail because now you're starting to get the hang of things. All right, so on this first one, you can see down here we're on the sphere worksheet. And notice at the top here, I've got a title here and my name. You should put that on the top of all yours. Now, down here in the titles, I just want to review, if we're down here, the centimeters squared, how do you get the subscript up there? Remember, to do that, you come up to the font tab, you hit this little lower expansion tab, and notice I have superscript. Superscript means that it's going above the level of the other letters, so it's going to seem risen. So that's called superscripting. All right, so that's one thing. Two, notice here I'm going to unmerge this. So let's say that you want to put a heading that goes over two cells, and I want this formula to be centered here. So what I can do is I can highlight the two cells that I would like it over, and then there's this thing called merge and center. So I just click on that, merge and center, and now it made the two cells E3 and F3 into a single cell. All right, so if you just like that look, that's something we may use. Lastly, or for the last few things here, notice that pi in Excel is pi, whoops, put X, pi parentheses parentheses. Okay, so if I go over to some cell and I just put equals pi open close parentheses, put enter, there I've got pi. Okay. All right, if I want to put things back to the way they were, if I screwed around, there's always this undo. I'll hit undo, 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 undo. Okay, and now I got back to my regular sheet. All right, so formula for area of a sphere for pi, b5 squared. b5 is the radius squared, and there is the volume 4/3 pi r cubed. I've pasted the formulas out. We've done that many times. Remember down in here, you can highlight two things and then use the fill. That comes down like that. If you feel that's too many decimal places, we can decrease the decimals, okay, to whatever we need. So let's say we have 1 decimal. So there you go. That's the sphere one. Let's take a look at loan. All right. Now, one of the things you're going to see with loan is, if you look down here on the left, that it goes from 18, row 18 to row 68. Like, what happened there? Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. If you zoom in there, and we will zoom in, you notice there's a double line. So if I highlight the 18 and the 68 and I right click and I put unhide, because the cells are unhidden, are hidden right now. I do unhide. Now all those cells now appear. Okay. I've got some highlighting in here. I just did some fill. Okay. I might want to put a border in here. So I'm just highlighting all those, put all border. Okay. So this loan amortization is something that starts on page 64 of the book. It's right after the sphere thing that we just did. So page 64. All right, the top stuff here are things that you're just going to type in. Okay, 25,000. You want to have units. And the only one that has a formula here is the periodic interest rate, and I'm going to call that per rate, and that's the amount borrowed divided by 12, which is the number of months. Okay, and then I've got the term, which is 5 years, the payments per year, payments, so that's total number of payments. So that would be just a 12 times 5, which would be 60 payments. So if I go down in this table, I see after 60 payments, my balance is 0. Okay. Now this payment amount, now they have you just type that value in. But Excel has a lot of formulas in there and functions that are specifically for financial purposes. Okay, and well, this 483.32. I mean, how did they get out that that's going to be our payment? Well, there's actually a function that we could use to get that value. Okay, so how do I know what that is? Well, I'm going to put an equal sign in and see if we can find a function. So I'm going to put fx, and well, first I'm going to put in the keyword payment. Okay, so we'll do payment and see what we come up with. So I say go, and it comes up with a whole bunch of stuff, and there's a PMT in here. It says calculates the payment for a loan on constant payments and a constant interest rate. Okay, well, I'll choose that one. It sounds like right. But now it's asking me for these things. Rate is the interest rate per period of the loan. For example, use 6% for quarterly payments at 6% APR, or divide by 4. Okay, I got it. All right, so it looks like the rate is going to be our monthly rate or periodic interest rate. So I click on that. N per is the total number of payments for the loan. Okay, that's the 60. Okay, PV, the present value. What's that? Total amount that a series of future payments is worth now. What? Let's just do help with the function. Maybe this will help us. So let's see. So PV, the present value or total amount that a series of future payments is worth now, also known as the principal. Okay, well, that helps. It's the principal. So why don't they just say principal? So that's going to be the amount borrowed. And then there's a couple optional things that we're not going to use. This one, it says, when do you want your loan to end? If you don't put anything there, it's assumed to be 0. You want to pay this loan down to 0. So you can leave that blank because the default is going to be 0. And then down here, type. The 0 means you're going to make the payment at the end of every month, and a 1 means you do it at the beginning. So we'll just do the end. We'll leave those two things blank. We'll put OK, and we get 483.32. Okay, now the reason why this comes up negative is because if you added this payment into something, it's a negative amount in terms of the amount borrowed. So what we're going to do just to make the rest of the spreadsheet work out is we'll just negate that. So we'll make that negative. Okay. And now it's going to be a positive 132. So to negate something, you just put a negative sign in here. Now the 483.32, right now it's in currency. You can put it in accounting format, which is very similar. But you know, when we're talking about money, generally looking at 2 decimal places, even though you can barely buy anything for 1 cent now. All right, now the rest of this sheet, okay. This stuff is things that you're just going to type in. All right. And then let's take a look at payment 1. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff all the way down to 60. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff and even this right here. Okay. So I've got payment 1. And we're following through on, I'm on page 65 right now, figure 219. So I typed that in. The 25,000, instead of putting just the number 25,000, why don't I just put equal to this cell right here. Okay, so that would be that right there. Okay, so that's still 25,000. But that way, if I change this number, let's say I get a bigger student loan. Let's say, well, that's way too much. That's 30,000. Okay, notice by using that function, the payment amount, that updated, and also this updated automatically. Okay, so I'm just going to put that back to 25,000, put OK. Remember, the mark of a good spreadsheet is going to be if we change anything here, all the other calculations will change accordingly. All right, the interest payment. Okay, now the interest payment is going to be equal to how much you owe, which is going to be this cell right here, 25,000 right now. That's B14 times the interest rate times, that's the periodic interest rate right here, which is named per rate, periodic rate. Okay, so I've got that. So it's $125. So now I'm up through figure 220. Okay, now paid on the principal. Now at this point, what we'd like to do is figure out if our payment is $483.32 per month, and in this first month $125 is going to interest. We want to know how much is left of our payment left to be paying down the 25,000. So I'm going to do equal, and I'm going to put the payment amount. Notice that I've named that cell payment. So payment minus excuse me, the interest. I put OK, and that means $358.32. All right, that gets us now over to page 67 in figure 222. So what's the principal after we have made the payment? Okay, well, it's going to be an equal sign. It's the principal before the payment minus the amount we paid on the principal, and I put enter. Okay, now notice this last one came up in scientific notation. All right, we don't want it in scientific notation, so I'm going to put it in accounting. Okay, so we have 24,641.68 left. All right, that's our first one. Okay, now we're going to do our second one, 2. Okay. All right, so we have to do one more row so that we get into the swing of what's going to happen. Now, the book says to use a formula here, so I'll show you another way to fill down. Okay, what we could do is we could do a formula in this A15. It could be equal the previous one plus 1. And then that'll bring us to payment number 2. Now the reason we're going to use a formula is because we could then just pull that down. But we'll see how that works in just a bit. Okay, principal before payment. Well, what's the principal before payment here? Well, it's the principal after the previous payment. So it's that right there, and I'm going to put OK. So once again, we're getting this scientific notation. So all I'm going to do is come down this way, and once and for all, just make that accounting for everything, and I won't have to keep doing this. Okay, so I've got that one. Now the interest. Now I can just copy this down because this is a relative address B14. So all we do on the interest payment is take the cell to the left, which is a relative address, times this absolute address. So I'm just going to pull that down. I don't have to tape anything over again. Now I've got 123.21. The interest that we're going to have to pay off is less because the amount of our principal is now less this month. Okay, paid on principal. Once again, I can use this first cell and just bring it down. Okay, 360. And then also this last one, which is just the principal minus how much we pay on the principal, so I can drag that down. Okay. So the only thing unique on this second one was the fact that I had to bring this down here. Okay? And notice that that's a relative address. So I think I'm ready to now roll this down the rest of the way. Okay. So I'm just going to highlight this whole row and just start going down, 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 down. Okay, I got to get this to 60. 59 payments. And it comes out with a balance of 0. That's what you want. Okay. Now you see I've got some lines in here. Okay, the way I got these lines is I just used the bordering tool. So there's top and bottom thick line. So there's a bottom line here, right here. Bottom border. So I hit bottom border. Over here I put right border. So those are just bordering things. All right. So I've got things pretty much the way I like it. Now for my formulas, I talked about this before. We did merge and center, so I've got that. So I showed on this second row all the formulas that I used. And remember, it's copy, paste with the apostrophe, you know, and we got everything. Now the reason I didn't want to do it for the first row is because the 25,000, that's a special situation for that one. All the other ones are always the relative address of what was up to the top right of the previous one. So I believe that's all we need to do for this one. So I'm saying that our loan ends on page 69. And the last thing I want to show is, you know, let's say you want to show this to your instructor. Okay, he or she is coming over here. You know, he wants to see kind of the top, how you did this. He's probably going to want to see that, let's see, we used named variables for things that we needed to have as absolute addresses. And he or she is going to want to see down at the bottom. But that means scrolling. So before your instructor comes over, why don't we hide some of the intermediate cells? Okay, so we can come down here. We'll hide, let's say, you know, the middle bunch of them. So I'll go to 68. So once you've highlighted all of these cells, and I'm over here on the green, I'm going to right click, and there's an option called hide. So I'm going to put hide. All right. So now you notice that there's a double line over here that's showing from 17 to 69 were hidden. But generally this will be a good way to display this spreadsheet to your instructor, because he or she can quickly see, okay, you got all the stuff, it started out right, it finished correctly, and you're all good. All right. Remember, if you want to unhide this, you just highlight the cell above and below, you right click, and you unhide. Okay, let's go to distances. Distances is a pretty easy spreadsheet. The only thing I'm going to say that's different from the book, and this is page 88 to 87, is the book just uses the number, instead of using a named variable here, they just put the 0.6214. But then that means the reader's got to know what the heck is 0.6214. This way is much more readable. You see right out front, miles per kilometer. Okay, it's there. We've named the cell. Okay, these are inputs that you're just going to type in. And then these are calculations out here. Notice the rounding. Okay, let's say we're going to round to 0. Okay. All right, well that means it's rounding just to the ones place. If you put a 1 in here, now you're saying, well, shouldn't that round it to 1 decimal place? Yeah, it should, but we have to increase the decimal. See, there's 1 place. It's hard to tell where it's rounded to, because these are coming out. That one came out even. Hopefully one of these is going to come out not even. Okay, like these. All right. So now if I've rounded that to one place, if I increase the decimal, notice now it starts filling with zeros because it's rounding to just the ones place. Now in this particular case, you want to round to the tens, or actually the hundreds place. So we want to round 2 to the left. Well, if you have a positive number here on the specifier, which is a number of digits, that means you're rounding to the right of the decimal place that many digits. If you put a negative number like -2, now you're rounding to the hundreds place, 2 places to the left of the decimal. So notice no matter how many decimal places we do, everything's going to be a 0 from the hundreds, the tens, the ones, and everything else. Okay. This first one, you can also drag upward. Okay. And I'll put OK. So that's all there is to this spreadsheet right here. Remember, paste out your formulas, put your spreadsheet name, which I should just have distances up here, make it a little shorter. Distances, fall 2008. Wow, it's a long time ago since I first did this. Alrighty, so there's distances. Alright, now we're moving into temperature. Okay, the temperature worksheet, as you can see, looks different. So this is the finished product. And we're on page 97 of the text. All right, first thing is we want to enter the data in figure 273. Wow, that's a lot of entering of data. Now one of the things it says is on your worksheet, page 2, maybe on page 3 this year, but it says enter the data shown in figure 273 in the book. And you're saying, oh boy, I got to type all that in. Well, let's be smart. If we see that there is an order, which there is, then all we really need to do is type in the first two rows. Okay, so 246. Okay. All right. Now, the rest of the table should continue this sequence. Okay. So I'm going to take all these, and if I do 2 rows, Excel for each of these columns, it's going to say, oh, the first one's going up by 1, this one's going up by 1, this is going up by 0.1, by 0.1, this one's going up by 0.8, this one's going up by 0.4, this one's going up by 0.4. So let's just drag this down and see if we get the same table. We'll stop this at 11. I've gone too far. I just bring the drag handle up to 11. All right, let's see if the last row is right. 242.2. This is 246.8, 0.9, 10. Okay. Then it started to go by, then it went by 2s. All right, so I got to correct a couple of these in here. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I just had to change a few of them. But now I've got all the data in there. The check one, I'm just going to put 1, 2, whoops, and drag that down. And this one I don't want any decimals. And it looks like they want this centered, highlight and center. Okay. Now I think I'm ready to roll. I'm just going to do one thing. I'm going to come up here, center each of those. The temperature thing here, I would like to get that centered from C to H. So let's just go like that. So it's in C now. We'll go to H. We do merge and center. Okay, so there's the temperature. And it looks like they want us to put a border around that, so we'll put an outside border, and I think we're good. Okay, so I've got what's on page 2, on 97, figure 273. All right, so there's the base entry. Okay, Now the next thing is we want to have Excel get into a special formatting. Okay, and to do that, what we do is we'll highlight the area that we want the special formatting. Okay, so I did that. Now that we have the data in there, I've highlighted this part right here, and I'm going to want to put some special formatting in here. So if you look on page 97, method 1 is to go to the Home tab. We go to Styles, which is right here, and it has Format as Table. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, and I can use any of these pre-made formatting. Okay, I'm just going to use a light formatting. Maybe I'll use this blue, looks nice. Okay, so it says where is the data for your table. You're going to include the heading table, and I'm going to put my table has headers. Yes, it does. So that means that Excel knows that this first row is not numerical data. So I'm going to put OK, and now it has this special formatting. If I don't like that formatting, I could change it in all kinds of ways. All right, so there is step number 1. We have this as a table. Now on figure 273, what we want to do is to sort the T5 table from largest to smallest. Okay, so right now it's smallest to largest. So when you format as a table, you get a lot of functionality in here. So you can come in here, and there's some things we can do, sort largest to smallest. So I put that one down, and it sorted this one from largest to smallest. But it also did that for all the other ones in there. All right, when we sorted this, notice that there's a little arrow down. If I undo what I just did, okay, I go back to the way it was. Now, if this gets resorted, in other words, from largest to smallest, what it's going to do is, since each of these rows are tied together, it's going to change the order of everything based on the sorting on T5. So if I go largest to smallest, it not only made this one go it made this one go largest to smallest, and then it made all the other things correspond so that what was in the 248 row before is all still up there. So 248, 246, yep. All right. So notice the resort affects the entire table, whereas this check out here, it shows that anything outside the table isn't affected. All right. Now next, we want to add some things. Okay, so we're going to add a totals row. Okay, to add a totals row at the bottom, I just right-click anywhere in this predefined table. I go to Table, and there's a selection here called Totals Row. I left-click on that, and now I get a Totals row. Okay. And in this Totals row, we are going to put the following information. We're going to add a Totals row, which we did, and we want to compute the average temperature of each column. So if we want to add the average on each of these, I can just do average. Let's see if I can drag it across. Yeah, it looks like you can drag on these tables just like you would before. I don't use this type of table too much, so that's why I'm a little bit shaky here, but it does have some functionality into it. But I'm not a giant fan of the table. Now this average over here, we could still put a formula in here, equals average of all this Now it says name, name, name. It doesn't like that. Okay? So what I would do is I'm going to do, whoops, I'll do an undo, undo, undo. Okay. Here's what we have to do. Sometimes when you get things in this formatted table, it's kind of a pain in the neck, all right? And you don't like this, and you want to say, I just want to get off of all this stuff. So what you can do is you can right-click, you can go to Table, and you can convert to arrange. Okay, so you convert to arrange. Do you want to convert the table to a normal range? Yeah. All right, now this doesn't act as that specially formatted table anymore, although the formatting is still there. Now I can go in here and put in average. Okay. Highlight these cells, go like this, put enter. Okay, now the average all works. Okay. If you like and you want to go back to the table, just highlight this whole thing, format as a table. I can even change the formatting now to something else. I'll put OK. There's my formatting. Okay. Next one, you're going to copy the same sheet over to formatting. Now I used a different formatting here. So let's, I'm going to delete my formatting tab and just show you what you're going to do. And the formatting is pages 101 up through 104. Okay. So first thing we're going to come down here to the temperature. I'm right clicking on the tab at the bottom. I'm going to do move and copy. I am going to put before what sheet. I'm going to put it before protecting. I'm going to create a copy, and now I've got two sheets that are exactly the same. Okay. Now when I come down here to the totals row, I guess I'd have to add the totals row separately, but what I'm going to do is right click here and I'm going to put this back to arrange. Yeah. Okay. And all I want to do here is to mess around here with the formatting. Okay, so first thing is deactivated this. Let's just take the formatting off of it. Okay, so to do that, I'll just click on a cell that has nothing, double click on Format Painter, come down here, and everything's just kind of plain Jane. Okay, and I'll click off of Format Painter. Okay, I don't know why this one came up that crazy number, but I'll just Format Paint over 1. Still didn't change. Why is that? Well, I'm just going to fix it individually then. Okay, so let's say you've got a table like this. Okay, and I'm just going to put all of these to 1 decimal place. And we want to apply what's called conditional formatting. So let's say there's things in this table that we want to get highlighted based on their numerical value. So we're going to go to Home, Styles, and we have something called conditional formatting. So I'm going to click on conditional formatting. Let's say we want to format this table so that we can point out very clearly if there's a temperature that's too high. So on page 103 in figure 283, they talk about this conditional formatting, which is in the Home tab over here on Styles. We come over here, we highlight the cells. We want to highlight anything greater than 248.0. Okay, and I'm going to put OK. Now we're going to move over to something called protection. Okay. Now what I'm going to do for protection, I'm going to get rid of my protection sheet and just show you what to do to get it. Okay. So let's come back to loan, and let's take this this loan, and we're going to create a copy of it. So we right click, we do move or copy, we click create copy, and I'm going to put that in front of my lone 1. Okay. So it's at the end. And I'm going to double click on this and change this to protection. All right, so I've got a direct copy of what I had before. Now that I've highlighted or selected the 4 cells that I want users to have access to, I need to unlock those. Now, all the cells in the sheet right now are actually locked, but because I haven't protected the sheet with a password, the locking and unlocking doesn't have any bearing, but it soon will. So what I need to do is I need to go to Home and then Cells, and then I need to go to Format, and right down here there's Lock Cell. All right, it says lock the selected cells to keep people from making changes to them. You must turn on Protect Sheet in order for this feature to work. All right, right now it shows the thing with a lock. So let me left click on that. All right, and you think, well, did it do what it's supposed to do? Well, let's go to Format, Cell, Lock. I can't tell if I've locked it or unlocked it. Okay, I'm back here. It looks, right now we're unlocked, but it looks like the icon's still locked. Now here's the thing Excel could have done a little better with. All right, I'm going to toggle. This is actually a toggle. So take a look at it right now. This is actually unlocked because there's no box around that little lock. Now I'm going to select the lock again, toggle it. Then I'm going to come over here and do Format Cells. Notice that there is a blue box around that. That means that the cell is locked. Okay. If I click this again and then come up to Format Cells, now those cells do not have the blue box, and that means they are unlocked. Oh man, you could do better with that. Why don't you just make it go from locked to the word unlock? Now if I look at any other cell on this sheet and go to Format, notice it has the lock, okay, with the blue box. So everything else around is locked. Nobody's going to be able to change anything. And you say to yourself, well, I can change something right now. Look, I could delete that. Well, you're right, you can. Because even though this cell is locked, we have not applied protection to the sheet. So now we're going to have to protect the sheet. Okay. So once again, we're going to go to Home, Cells, Format. Okay. And we're going to protect the sheet. Okay. Now, when you do this, this is going to make all the locked and unlocked cells come into play. Okay. So I'm going to hit Protect the Sheet, and it's asking for a password. So just so you don't forget and I don't forget, let's just make Engineering 1 ENR 161 will be our password. Now allow all users of this worksheet to select lock cells. Yeah, we'll let them select them. Select unlock cells. Okay, sure. We're not going to let them delete rows. We're not. This is like the least amount you should give anybody. So we'll put OK. All right. Now re-enter the password because I did all caps Engineering 161. I'll put OK. All right. Now I'm just going to put up here because I don't really. Whoa, it's protected. Look at that. I try to do anything, any cell. Let's say I try to hit delete. It says the cell or chart you're trying to change is on a protected sheet. To make a change, unprotect the sheet. You might be requested to enter a password. Say, okay, well if I really want to change that, notice I can see the formulas, but I can't change them. But there are 4 cells I can change. Okay, I can change this one. I could make it 30,000 if I wanted to. Okay. Now you say, well, what happened all down here? Well, probably these numbers got too big to fit in that type of formatting. All right. So let's make it smaller. 10,000. All right. So I can change that one. I can change the interest rate. Okay. If I try to change this formula, it gives me the error. The terms, I could change that. Changes all that, changes my payment. I can't change that right there. I could change payments per year. Yeah, probably shouldn't have had people be able to do that one, but you get the idea. So if I go back and just remind ourselves, the ones I can change are the ones that are not locked. But I think once you're protected, it doesn't show you locked or unlocked. All right. Now, the trouble is I can't do anything else to change this, okay? So when I protected, if I want someone to change, let's say, the term of this, maybe to go to more than 6 years or something, maybe I want to let them add rows, okay? But in any event, that's the basics of it. So I'm going to unprotect the sheet. To unprotect it, I've got to put the password in, entering 161. Now, the next time I do this, I may forget, so I don't really need to protect this. And in a year from now, when I come back, if I happen to put protection on, I just want to remind myself that I got my password there. All right, so I'm just going to save my spreadsheet. So there is the how to protect a spreadsheet. Okay, the next three are homework problems, so I'm not going to say too much about those. All right, let's take a quick look at some of the three homework problems just quickly. All right, the first one, loan 1, is pretty self-explanatory. You know, you can use that PMT again. I would like you to format that as a table if you like. I do want to see the total payment in interest, the total amount you paid on principal. Now, the total amount you pay on principal needs to make sure that it's the amount borrowed, and then the total of payments will be these two. So make sure you have those in play. Put the formulas out to the side, do all that good stuff. Now, loan 2 is a little different animal, okay? Because this 250, that payment is not by means of a formula. So this is saying, hey, we're going to use the same parameters as the loan 1, but instead of using, and I'm just going to click back here, the 222.04, which makes things come out perfectly even after 120 payments, loan 2 is such that if you're paying more than the minimum amount, your loan will be retired before you make 120 payments. Now, if you look down here, on the last payment, okay, there's so little interest that is owed, okay, that if you look at your payment, the $250 is more than the sum of the amount of principal you have left and the interest. So this paid on principal column needs to change, okay? Instead of just being always the payment amount minus the interest payment, for the last one, the paid on principal is just going to be the payment. Actually, it's just going to be what you owe on the loan plus the interest. So you're going to need an if statement, okay, down in this paid on principal. All right, and I'm going to be looking for that to make sure you have an if. All right, because if you don't have an if statement, what's going to happen is you're going to have something different than $20,000 out here. All right, so I'll be watching for your if statement. Okay, the growth number one, I'm not going to show you. It's a pretty easy one. So thanks for coming along, and I'll be interested to see how well you do with your spreadsheets. Thanks.